Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Brian over here hanging out with two amazing individuals with us. First and foremost, we have Dr. Stephen Greene as well as Krisi Vandais. So thank you for being here. As you know, this is our masterclass series with the specific need of what? Self-care. These two individuals are going to fill your ear today with some solutions to maybe some things that you don't even realize that you are doing or are not doing. With that being stated, Krisi, why don't you start us off and tell us a little about yourself?
Hi, Brian. Good morning, Steve. My name is Krisi Vandais. Like you said, it rhymes with badness. That's the easiest way to remember my name. Like so many people, I have been through some stuff. I was going through a very rough divorce 3.5 years ago. And I found that through that, I had to figure out who I was and pick myself up again, me and my boys. I'm now a single parent to 2 little boys. And all the modalities that I use to help myself get through it, I now help others get through it. I originally set out to help women, but as I learned that men actually have a greater need for my services just because they don't have the same kind of support system that a lot of women have. A lot of men lean on other men for locker room talk or going to see football games, but they don't get into the nitty gritty. And what they need is someone to have a safe place to be able to open up and share feelings so that they can get through their own crud and get out the other side.
Oh, now you have a list of services over here. Everything from life coaching, right, which is very big, encompassing as it is, to EFT tapping, public speaking coach, a law of attraction coach, tarot readings as well. What else do you do?
Yeah, so everything I do, I kind of build it all under the umbrella of a life coach. But a little bit of everything. And like I said, it's all the modalities that I myself use that I got certified in. So hypnotherapy is a big one for me. I help a lot of my clients with hypnotherapy. EFT or tapping is actually an age-old practice that's coming back around. A lot of people are starting to use it. It's very effective. It's pressing on certain meridian points and having certain feelings and emotions so that we can let go of them so they're not holding us back anymore. I do a lot of public speaking. I have won awards. I've been on the international stage as a competitor. And so I went ahead and got certified to help other people who want to just feel more confident and learn how to do their very best when they're on stage. I do tarot readings. Yeah, I do tarot readings. A lot, like he said, the law of attraction, which I'm huge firm believer that we attract what we think about. So if we're going to think all day all the negative stuff, that's all we're going to see. And if we think about all the good stuff that we want in life and the good stuff about who we are and believe all the good stuff about who we are, that's also what we're going to see.
Wow. Steve, you're kind of like a life coach as well, right? Being an educator. Would you say that would be?
I mean, I think in a sense, anyone who does anything to help other people broadly is a life coach. But I don't think of myself in the sense that I'm trying to redirect somebody's life mission. My service or my superpower, I guess, as some people are apt to say, is really the ability to help people learn things that they need to learn or want to learn to further their journey to success. So it manifests in a number of ways. As most people know, one of my main offerings is working with students and families and helping them navigate the whole academic world. And I also work with a lot of entrepreneurs the same way. So I'm roughly parallel, I think, in the way that Krisi sort of helps people on a personal level. I'm helping them more in kind of a professional level. If you bundle the idea of academics into somewhere along the continuum of a professional development.
I think my favorite thing about coaching in general, whatever you call it, coaching is about having someone figure out where they're at and where they want to be and helping them navigate their own steps to get there. And I feel like that's exactly what you're doing, is the same way.
So maybe you guys are like in the restaurant business, we called it a SOP, a standard of operations, right? So you're just guiding them to make their own decisions. That's a hard thing, especially when you start talking about self-care. Now, Chris, let me ask you this. What is self-care? But more importantly, here, wait for it. What is it not? Because I think sometimes we get into the world where we're like, oh, I did this for myself, but you really didn't at the end of the day. And you're not really filling that cup, or you're not really taking care of yourself. So please.
Yeah. I think we have this misconstrued standard of what self-care is. And you hear a lot about, oh, go get a massage or go get your nails done, or these are not self-care items. These are items that obviously if you want to get your hair done, you absolutely should. But I think we put so much pressure on people to do self-care, and it's one more thing to add to our to-do list when we're already completely overwhelmed. So when we talk about self-care, it's not one more thing we have to do. It's one more thing that we get to advocate for ourselves and put in our own lives that helps take care of us. And sometimes that's just saying no. That's learning to say no to things that don't suit you. You know, you feel this cringe in your gut when someone says, hey, can you do this? And you don't want to say no, but you don't want to say yes. And you know that you're not going to enjoy it, and you're probably not going to be the best at it. Self-care can look as simple as saying, you know what, if it doesn't suit me, I don't want to be a part of it. And I think we get so bogged down by the definition of self-care, but it's really what can I do today that's helping me take care of myself in all the ways, in my mental and my emotional and my physical health. You know, maybe self-care looks like doing yoga every morning because you love it. But if you hate doing yoga, it's not self-care. It's one more thing that you have to do. And so I feel like if we start looking at our life in ways of, I want every day to be a day that I enjoy. I don't want to dread my day. So if we can start doing things that fit us and suit us better and saying no to things that don't, that's taking care of yourself, as opposed to adding one more thing to our to-do list.
Steve, you have a piece where you work with entrepreneurs, which again, they're in the very early stages, or maybe they're 25 years in. Where do you feel like the self-care comes in from their awareness of walking into one of your programs?
My viewpoint is that life, I guess, generally is, in a way, is a series of choices. Let me use a business person as an example. Every day you have to make decisions, choices about what you're going to do. And in theory, they're all trying to drive you ultimately to some level of success. Some of them are stops along the way. Some are a little more terminal decisions. So I look at it as you have to take all these things into account in order to try to make the best decision you can. Some of them are personal, some are professional, some might be considering other people's involvement in what you're doing, and such and such. So to me, and I'm looking at this, like I said, a little bit more of a professional level as opposed to a personal level. It's about having the right information to make the best choice, the decision at the time, which would lead to taking action at the time. Because you got to bundle these together. And I'm going on a little bit long, but if just making a choice doesn't help you if you don't take action to put that choice into some kind of manifestation. So what I find is, whether it's an entrepreneur or a student or something, you can teach them whatever you want to teach them. If they don't want to do it, or they're not going to do it effectively, or they're going to do it for 2 days and not do it anymore, it's not going to have the desired effect. So there's sort of a pre-work sometimes that people have to do. People have to be ready to want to help themselves. People have to be in a state of mind, or a mindset, or there's all kinds of words that people use. So there's sometimes pre-work you have to do in terms of learning or experience or skill set to get to a point where we can actually start to make progress. I mean, this is a lot of the same concept that goes on with therapy, because one of my degrees in educational psychology. So psychology does a lot of these things. You got in the academic world, it's called assessment. What are you good at? If you can't add, you're not gonna be able to multiply, whatever. But I agree with Krisi. A lot of this is doing things that you want to do because they're things that you enjoy, but sometimes you have to do things you don't enjoy because they're getting you to a larger goal. I'm a student. I don't really want to take the SATs, but I want to go to college. That's typically one of the requisite things you need to do it. So love it or hate it, it's something sometimes you have to just live with. So these are things I tend to coach. In business, same thing. I don't like doing bookkeeping. I hate it. I never liked it. I've tried to offload it just as an example. And the people I tend to hire don't really like the way they do it. So I have been coming back to me and doing it myself again. But if I didn't do bookkeeping, the business would fall apart on a certain level. So there's pieces of both of it. I think in the end, ultimately, and like I said in the beginning of this, it's about making the correct choice for yourself at the time based on the information you have, and then being able to take the actions to manifest it in a positive way.
You've said that word twice now, and it perked my ears the first time. And I know Krisi, wherever she is located on your screen, is getting all excited inside. Manifestation, right? Let's talk about manifestation, Krisi.
It's a hot button word these days.
Yeah, it is. It is. You know what, Steve? I actually want to comment what you said, because what you said is 100% spot on. But you were talking about the pre-work that sometimes needs to be done to even take those first steps. You know, we look at our end goal as the top of the stairs, and there's stairs that we have to take to get there. And sometimes that is the mindset of just thinking that you're worthy or that you're good enough to even take that first step is sometimes the hardest step for people. You know, it's hard to see the top of the stairs when you're down at the bottom. And sometimes you aren't going to love every stair along the way, but to get to your end goal, that's, am I still with you?
Yeah,
you are.
Okay. All right. I heard a beep. I didn't want this thing to shut off.
Explode.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
Your headset's going to explode. No, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. But so I love that you said that, because it is like we see those stairs and, you know, being able to decipher which ones we need to do and which ones we can offload.
Kristen, let me ask you a question.
Yes.
In your world, in your space, working with people, in my world, setting goals with or for people is very, very important. And I'm going to use the metaphor of the stairs, right? Our goal is to get to the top of the steps. There may be 4 steps to get there, there may be 12, there might be 100. Like Brian ran up the Rocky steps, I think there's 142. But it's the same thing. If I'm trying to prep a student,
so many steps.
There's a lot of steps. You know.
So many steps.
He did it though. He handled it. But anyway, there may be 10 steps in the process, and they may or may not enjoy any of them, but they do want the end result. And sometimes life coaching things, you got to go through some pain to get to the joy. Yeah. Right. And that's going to be very, very different in every individual case. But in your opinion, how important is goal setting, or at least some version of it in the work that you do?
I think goal setting is one of the most important things to see where you want to go. It's the only way to take the first step. We tend to get paralyzed with, this is my life, this is where I'm going, this is where I'm at. And then that's why you feel stuck, because you don't see where you're going. To have any kind of goal, you know, there's people who deal with weight loss. You have to have a goal in order to take that first step. Like, if we don't know where we're going, how are we going to get there? And when we don't have the goals, that's where we just feel like we're in the mud of the everyday monotony of our lives and hating where we're going, not knowing what to do. That's where a lot of that comes from, is because they don't even know where they want to go. And that step, like you said, that step, it could feel like the steps over in Philly for one person, and someone else go, oh, that's that's like 2 little steps. So everybody's goal is different, and how they're going to get there is different. But I think whenever we stay stagnant, that's where we fall behind, because we're either going forward or backwards.
There's another variable also, which is time.
Yeah.
Some people are just not patient.
Yeah.
I mean, I use the metaphor of weight loss because that's a common thing, right? If you need to lose 30 pounds, let's just to throw a number up. No one on earth healthfully can lose 30 pounds in a week. Yeah. Right? I mean, I guess you probably could, but in a healthy sense, mentally or physically. So, you know, going in, it's going to be a journey, right?
Yeah.
It might be a 2-3 month journey, and there's going to be ups, there's going to be downs, there's going to be happy days, there's going to be trying times. That, I think that's where the mindset piece comes in, right? And so to kind of get back to our, like, I look at life coaching, dealing with mindset to a degree, dealing with attitude, dealing with life view. Those are terms I tend to use. In my world, sort of more the academic business side, you don't tend to use those terms as much, but that's why I sort of use the term goals
Yeah.
synonymously in terms of usage as mindset, things like this. But they all really are getting people to the same place. Now, of course, the thing is, as soon as you reach one goal, guess what you do right away?
Right.
You set another one, right?
Right.
So, or a series of them. And you may have several of them kind of staggering each other. I think this is the key thing that with all this stuff, because I think we're leading people to the same point. We might be doing it
absolutely.
with different modes, but we're trying to get people to the same position. And that's where the self-care piece comes in. Self-care, in a way, is at least partly about doing things that make you happy, but it's also a judgment thing. You know, it's also a self. I know people that are, most people consider very, very successful, at least financially, and they're not happy people.
I think
Yeah,
that's a huge piece, though. Let's talk about the
Mhm.
elephant in the room, especially when we talk about not being happy. Finding our joy. What does finding our joy look like in 2022 after a recovery?
Being able to get out of the
COVID,
house,
right?
and not have to wear a mask. No,
Yeah.
I'm kind of joking.
Steve, why don't you go ahead and lead us with that? And then, Krisi, I'd love to hear, what are you giving up, as you stated earlier, to glow up, right? To find that joy.
Yeah.
Well, let me get back to the point I brought up about timing, right? When you're some young people, I work with high school kids. Their view of time is very different than, say, a 50-year-old's would be, or 30-year-olds would be, in the sense of how long it takes to do something, or being willing to invest weeks, months, or even years to get something accomplished. And I've been running my business 26 years. It's not the same now as it was when I started, because I learned a lot more. I've got a lot more experience. But the expectations have also changed as well. So I think to get to Brian's point, what makes someone happy is so variable. You have 100 people with 100 different measuring sticks. But I think at least a piece of it is feeling like you're contributing to things, to feeling like you're doing has worth, to feel that you relate well to other people. Those are the things that are important to me. I can't define that necessarily for other people, but I think lately, just to frame this in case somebody's listening to this in 2038, this is early 2022. So we're kind of still in the grips of this whole COVID experience, which has been a big isolation thing. But to me, I think that's what ultimately people want. The measuring stick for most people is money in terms of success. Right or wrong, it just is. You make more money than somebody else, theoretically, you're more successful than them. But there's so many other layers. It's the same thing in academics. Somebody gets a higher SAT score than somebody else. Doesn't necessarily mean they're a better student or they're going to be more successful, but it kind of gives them bragging rights a little bit. So to me, simply speaking, I think finding joy is a matter of finding things you enjoy doing and doing them with people you enjoy doing them with, all put together in some kind of long range goal to get where you want to go, which is going to be everybody's different definition. But what do you think, Krisi?
Yeah, I really love that perspective. And I think so many other people, especially the money aspects, I think people are looking for their joy in the money aspect. And I am much more, and you're not wrong. We all are striving for more money, and we are all trying to get to that place to be more comfortable. But I think finding your joy can happen on the most mundane, small things. If we talked about goal setting, which I love and I 100% believe in, but if you're waiting to hit that goal to be happy or joyful, you're never going to get there. That is never going to come. And I think it's acceptable and, in fact, necessary to find your joy in the everyday things. We talked about hitting that goal, but the real prize in that is becoming who you need to be to hit that goal. There's this whole process of you know, if you're looking to be a professor, if you're an 18-year-old fresh out of high school and you want to be a professor of science, you are not the person you need to be yet. You are going to become the person, and to find joy in the process of becoming the person that you need to be to hit that
I
goal.
totally agree with you. Yep.
Yeah,
I really
and
agree with you.
finding the joy in, you know, when COVID hit in 2020, I found myself at home isolated with 2 children. I'm an extrovert. I'm a public speaker. The more people around me, the better. And I had to kind of take an adjustment and find my joy in the fact that I got to spend 2.5 months with my kids that I would not have got to spend with them because I'm so busy working all the time. So, and this, you know, that's a very extreme example, but learning to find joy along the way and knowing that whatever is happening is part of the plan and it's okay. We don't have to be miserable because X, Y, and Z is happening in the outside world. We can still be joyful regardless of what's going on. Even if we take setbacks, if we're climbing those stairs to hit the goal and we realize we fell down a couple stairs, or maybe the goal shifted and it's not exactly what we thought we had wanted, you can still find joy in all of it, in becoming the person you're supposed to become in order to get where you're going.
See, I think one thing you're alluding to is it's never a linear process, right?
No.
It's never like you start at one place and you have this direct, uninterrupted line to the next place. There's always going to be whatever you want to call it, detours, shifts, changes, adaptations, so on and so on. And that's part of the reason that you develop, right?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of these therapies that you use are things that take time to kind of kick in. I'm actually a big fan of EFT. I've done it with a lot of students. I find it's very well.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say I'm an expert in. I'm not a certified practitioner or anything, but sometimes I'll get students and they're just very scattered. You know, we're and even entrepreneurs. I haven't done as much with them, but you know, it's like, hey, we got to get to work, and they're like, oh, they're all over the place. And the EFT is a very really good. If you've never tried it, it's so simple. You do it in like 30 seconds if you want.
Yeah.
But it's just a very good centering exercise. It probably has greater powers, but but that's what I found it was really good for, even for like a minute. And kids at first like, what are you doing? Like, because you're going like, you tap on like here. I forget all the points.
Yeah.
But they're like, what are you doing? I'm like, oh, just do it. Just do what I do. And they're like 45 seconds, like, oh, well, that was kind of cool. And then then we can actually get to work and do something a little more meaningful. But it's you know what I think is also important, because one of the things I try to avoid consciously is not creating a dependency of the people that I work with to need me to have success. Right. Sometimes it happens that way because that's just the way that they're working it. But I try to be very careful to provide people with skills that they can develop on their own, as well as sort of mentoring them and nurturing them as they develop those skills. Because it's difficult when we are going to get some people that are going to need help for 3, 6 months, a year, 2 years, whatever.
Right.
But I also want them to be able to have success independently as much as they're capable of doing it. I could give a gazillion examples about it, but I think the point is made. So this is something I think is important as well, is teaching people the skills as we're developing them as independent joy seekers, or maybe whatever term you want to use, goal setters, goal seekers.
Yeah.
And that's a key thing too. So it's something that kind of gets lost in the translation sometimes. Hey, I'm hiring you to do this. Just do it for me. I don't want to do it for you. I don't want to sit here and do your math homework for you. That doesn't help you. Yeah, it gets it done.
100%. And I think the thing that is most challenging in any kind of coaching or mentoring role is that they have the abilities themselves to do most of it. We can teach them the skills that they need to adapt those abilities, but they already have it. And for them to just understand that they can do what they need to do to go to school or to pass the ACTs, you can teach them the skills that they need, but they're the ones that have the ability, and the same thing with mine. Like you have the ability to get there. You just need to know what the next step is, but you're the one that's doing all of the work.
Mhm.
I'm just showing you the right direction.
Let
There's
me
an
ask you
old.
this.
Oh,
Let
go
me ask you
ahead.
this. Does that fall into knowing your worth?
Partly for sure.
Partly, yeah.
Yeah. Krisi,
There's an
why don't
old.
you
There,
tell us
Yeah.
how it kind of plays that into your role as a life coach? And then I'd love to hear from you as well, Steve, as an educator for students as well as entrepreneurs.
I definitely think it's about knowing your worth, but that's just part of it. And it's a lot easier said than done
for
to
sure.
say,
And
you
it's
know,
always
you,
changing.
to say, well, you know your worth. Well, again, it's the steps. It's, well, I'm not worthy of to be a professor today, but you're worthy of the next step, and you will become that person. And you have to know that you have the abilities, knowing that I am good enough to be able to listen to the right people that will help me get to the next step on the right path.
Let me
You
tell
know,
you. Let me tell you
yeah.
kind of a joke. Not really a joke, but this is the story. I'm going to use a psychologist, but you could apply this to coach, educator, tutor, whatever. A person's going to a psychologist, and they're laying on the couch, and the psychologist is there with a cigar or whatever, the pipe, whatever. And the patient says, "Listen, doc, I've been coming to you for 20 years. When am I going to get better?" And the psychologist says, "Oh, that's easy. You'll get better when you can't afford to pay me anymore." And the point of the story is it's not about money. It's about making ultimately the patient slash student slash person slash entrepreneur has to make a decision on their own that they are going to accept help and that they're going to take action to move forward. And they're going to maybe have some painful moments doing it because they're going to have to let go of things that maybe they were attached to for a long time, or they're going to have to sever relationships that are toxic, or they're going to have to learn new skills that are difficult to learn academically or professionally or personally. But the money metaphor in the joke really is about what drives you to ultimately make a decision that you're willing to go it on your own, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that is difficult to force upon people. And there's probably a gazillion, stories and poems about this, but it's something that people have to discover on their own, almost like an epiphany. So
Yeah.
I think one of the roles of a coach, in whatever context you want to use it, is to guide people to the point when they can make that decision, give them the right tools at the time to do it, foster a feeling that they can do it on their own, and then kind of grow with them. And this is all, big picture stuff, but it's really true. And I've seen it a gazillion times. And sometimes, it's like the shoemaker and the shoes. I mean, I don't know how you feel, Krisi, every day, but there's some days it's hard to be this kind of motivator to everybody else all the time, especially when we're working on our own stuff as well, right? So, it's just layers.
Yeah,
But I think in
absolutely.
the end, I think ultimately it comes down to people, whether they're students, entrepreneurs, divorced men, it doesn't matter, unhappy people in their jobs, having enough information, having enough tools, having enough support to be able to make a decision that it's time to move ahead and to take action to do it. And then,
Absolutely.
Action.
yeah,
And
action.
I don't think we're ever done getting that mentorship. Like you said, even as somebody who motivates other people and to help, I'm still not perfect. And I still reach out to my mentors to ask them for a little advice, or I need a little pick me up. We all do. It's not this is not a place we get to and then we're done. It's a place you continue to strive for.
Yeah.
You know,
And let me to get back to something Brian said a long time ago. What is self-care not? You have to be careful who you take advice from.
Mhm.
I'm not saying
Okay.
I'm always the best person for everybody. I mean, seriously, I would love to help every human being, every 4.8 billion people on the earth, or whatever number it is, but I'm not always the right person.
Yeah.
And sometimes I have to identify that and communicate that back to the person that wants to work with me. So you got to be careful. Sometimes people that just because they're a mentor doesn't necessarily mean they're leading you down the path that is best for you all the time. And I'm not
Oh,
as-
100%.
That's a whole other subject, guys.
yeah,
that we can talk
it
around.
is. But I
Yeah,
wanted to
yeah.
I wanted to point it out because
Yeah.
sometimes when people want help, they're like, okay, I got a problem, I need help. And they seek out the easiest solution to get it fixed. Fixed is probably the wrong choice of words, but I think you know where I'm going with it. Because, okay, well, you know, my neighbor's friend does this, so I'm going to go talk to them. They may not be the best fit for them. It's worth it taking some time to vet and to discover, you know, the different ways that you can get support before you kind of go all in with it, is what I'm saying. And I've seen people that actually can go backwards because they've aligned themselves with what turned out to be poor support.
Yeah.
It was there, it existed, it just wasn't the right fit for them.
Yeah.
It's
And I
all
think
part of the process too.
The best thing I could say to that is to find somebody who's doing what you're doing, to find somebody who is the person that you want to be, and that's the one that you seek out for advice.
Well, there's
Yeah.
other ways that you could just head to TikTok and get advice too,
Mhm.
right? They are huge.
Or YouTube or
Listen, I saw the best.
Reddit or name
Good,
one
I saw
thing.
the
good and
best
bad.
TikTok. I saw the best TikTok ad that stated, listen, when your car is not working, you take it to a mechanic. Why aren't you seeing a life coach when your body and your mind isn't working?
Yeah.
Oh.
Right. Well, listen,
Was that done by a
we are
life
so
coach or was
appreciative
that done
of
by a mechanic?
we're so appreciative of both of you two sitting in here with us. We have 2 more individuals that will complete this series this month. And saying that, there's a couple more things I want to chat about. Number 1, Krisi, how do I reach you?
So you can reach me on my website. It is Coach Krisi, CoachKrisi.com. You can also find me on Facebook under the same name, Coach Krisi. Those are the 2 easiest ways to get a hold of me.
Perfect. And what about you, Steve? How do we reach you?
Simplest, quickest, text the word info to 215-825-3323, or just email me, sgreene@makethegrade.net, which is the same as my website, makethegrade.net, which is a beautiful website, right, Brian?
It is.
Beautiful website. Brian
And
works
saying
on my
that, it's
website.
also going to be in the comments, so you don't have to remember
Yeah,
anything.
there you
So
go.
with saying that, I have some questions for you folks as we wrap up. We're going
Uh-oh.
to do an either or. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right.
Okay, here it is. Share food or do not share food? Krisi.
Krisi, you go first.
I'm going to go with share food, but I got 2 kids, so I take a tax every meal that they get.
Okay. Steve?
I am always willing to share food, but my wife doesn't like to.
Okay. I think this is an easy one for me. Winning the lottery or landing your dream job?
Ooh, that's a tricky one.
I'm gonna go with winning the lottery.
I'm gonna go lottery also.
Because then I can go do my dream job without having to worry about money.
Yeah.
Right. Absolutely.
I
Which is what we're
agree
doing
with you.
already at the end of the
Yeah.
day. So outer space or the bottom of the sea?
I don't know if I like either of them.
I don't either.
I'm gonna say outer space because I've been in the ocean, but I've never been in space.
Yeah. I'll go with outer space just because I think the view would be amazing.
Okay. Bagels or toast?
Bagels.
No cream cheese.
But yeah, it wasn't a choice. I like Bialys. You ever have a Bialy? That might be a Philly thing, Bialys.
I've never heard of a Bialy.
Oh, they're really, really good. It's sort of like, think of like a bagel that's squashed down, and then they put like onions and garlic and
Ooh.
all
A
kinds of
panini?
but it's like a circle. I think it's a Philadelphia thing. It's
Yeah.
not as famous as cheesesteaks, but it's they're really, really good. Bialys.
Yeah. Well, listen, here is the most important question, and this determines
is
if we can be friends.
Uh-oh.
Android or iPhone?
Oh boy.
Android.
Android. Well,
All right,
listen,
Brian's
we
gonna cut
appreciate
me
you guys'
off now.
time. We appreciate your
I'm an
energy.
Apple guy.
And we'll look forward to seeing you next week with the Masterclass version 2, self-care with Dr. Marilyn Pendleton.
Yep.
Thanks so much, folks. Take care. Be safe.
Krisi,
Bye.
thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. It was so great to meet you, Stephen. Thank you, Brian.